Imagine awakening in a world where every breath, every whisper, even every fleeting thought is monitored by an omnipresent power. That chilling scenario isn't a distant sci-fi fantasy. It's the daily reality of George Orwell's landmark novel, 1984. 1. Setting the stage. Why 1984 still matters. Before we dive into plot twists and iconic quotes, let's answer the question most viewers secretly ask. Why should I care about a book published back in 1949? The short answer, because we're living parts of it right now. Orwell wrote 1984 as a dire warning against totalitarianism after witnessing the rise of fascist and communist regimes. Fast forward to today, and the novel's Big Brother feels eerily familiar in the age of mass surveillance, curated social feeds, and data mining smartphones. Even phrases like doublethink, newspeak, and thought crime have slipped into everyday vocabulary. They hint at how language, misinformation, and fear can be weaponized to control whole societies. By revisiting 1984, we aren't merely checking a classic off our reading list. We're sharpening our critical thinking, challenging the narratives fed to us, and asking whether freedom can truly coexist with endless data collection. If you've ever wondered how propaganda shapes public opinion, or why objective truth seems slippery online, Orwell's Dystopia hands you a magnifying glass. In this review, I'll cover the plot without massive spoilers, break down key themes, explore unforgettable characters, and finally reveal whether the novel deserves its powerhouse reputation, or if it's just required reading your English teacher forced on you. 2. Plot and world building. A glimpse behind Oceania's curtains. Meet Winston Smith, a frail 39-year-old clerk at the ironically named Ministry of Truth. His day job? Rewriting history so that the party, ruled by the elusive Big Brother, is always right. That simple premise establishes one of literature's most chilling realities. The past is whatever authorities say it is. Winston lives in Airstrip 1, formerly Great Britain, part of a superstate locked in perpetual war. Citizens are kept in line by telescreens that watch both day and night, microphones hidden in bushes, and children trained to denounce their own parents. The narrative kicks into gear when Winston secretly begins a diary, an act punishable by death, and falls for Julia, a rebellious machinist. Together, they rent a shabby room above Mr. Charrington's antique shop, clinging to fleeting moments of privacy. But as they explore personal freedom and forbidden love, they must evade the omnipresent thought police. Orwell's world-building feels unrelenting. Bombed-out streets, rationed chocolate, 2 minutes hate sessions where crowds scream at fabricated enemies. Every detail reinforces psychological manipulation. Crucially, the story doesn't drown in exposition. Instead, Orwell drip-feeds context through Winston's internal monologue and chilling party slogans. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Each contradiction nudges readers to question how rhetoric can turn lies into unquestioned truths. Even if you think you know the ending, the tension Orwell sustains, from whispered conversations in canteens to the bleak corridors of the Ministry of Love, will keep your pulse elevated. 3. Themes and symbols. Unpacking thought crime, language, and power. Let's talk themes, because 1984 isn't just a plot, it's a toolkit for decoding manipulation. First up, surveillance. The party's omnipresent gaze isn't only about collecting data, it's about forcing self-censorship. When you might be watched, you police yourself, saving Big Brother the trouble. Second, the mutability of truth. By constantly editing newspapers, Winston learns that reality is as fragile as the latest headline. In a world of deep fakes and algorithmic news feeds that feels disturbingly relevant. Third, Language as a weapon. Newspeak systematically reduces words, aiming to make thought crime literally unthinkable. If there's no vocabulary for rebellion, rebellious thought withers. This links to modern struggles over words, whether political correctness suffocates debate, or whether new terms empower marginalized voices. Now to symbols. The paperweight Winston buys from Mr. Charrington represents a tangible, unaltered past, a tiny universe immune to party tampering, until it's shattered during a pivotal betrayal. Rats, Winston's nightmare, symbolize primal fear and the party's readiness to exploit personal phobias to break dissenters. Even the setting of Room 101 shows how terror can be tailored to each individual. Finally, consider the party's mantra of perpetual war. Constant external threats justify internal repression, redirecting public anger away from leaders. Sound familiar when scrolling headlines today? That's Orwell's genius. He embeds these big-picture critiques inside intimate, claustrophobic scenes, ensuring the message slices rather than lectures. 4. Verdict and takeaways. Should you read 1984 today? So, does 1984 live up to the hype? Absolutely. And not because it predicts every detail of modern life, but because it articulates timeless mechanisms of control. Orwell's prose is lean, almost journalistic, making the 300-page novel surprisingly accessible. Yet the emotional weight can be intense. This isn't a feel-good dystopia that wraps with tidy hope. Its bleak finale lingers like static in the mind, forcing readers to confront how fragile liberty can be. Critics sometimes argue the female characters lack depth, or that Orwell's future underestimated technology's sophistication. Fair points, but the thematic spine remains steel-solid. If you cherish free speech, cherish facts, or simply enjoy gripping storytelling, 1984 is essential. For first-time readers, I recommend pairing the novel with Orwell's essay, Politics and the English Language, to deepen understanding of linguistic manipulation. Audiobook fans, look for narrations by Simon Preble or Timothy West. Both capture Winston's vulnerability perfectly. Parents often ask if teens can handle it. I'd say ages 15 plus. The content is more psychologically harrowing than graphic. Finally, approach 1984 less as prophecy and more as provocation. Use it to audit your own media diet. Who curates your feed? What slogans dominate your timeline? Where might you already be practicing doublespeak? If you close the book asking those questions, Orwell's warning siren has done its job. If this breakdown lit up your inner rebel, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dive book reviews, and drop a comment on the scariest real-world parallel you see to Orwell's vision. Let's keep the conversation and critical thinking alive.